His Majesty granted the marriage, and I was forced to marry into the Marquis of Xiaoshan's household as his second wife. I'd heard my future mother-in-law was harsh, the sisters-in-law were difficult, and my husband already had a favored concubine, arrogant and overbearing, who'd practically driven the former wife to her grave. Respectable families in the capital avoided the Xiaoshan family like the plague. Right before I got into the bridal sedan, my mother held my hand, eyes brimming with tears. "My daughter, you must be careful. Don't go too far with your in-laws. If anything happens, your father won't be able to answer to the emperor."
1.
On our wedding night, I sat on the marriage bed wearing a phoenix crown that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I remembered my parents' parting words and sat there motionless for 2 whole hours, eyes closed, conserving my energy. My close maidservants, knowing my temper, didn't dare to come persuade me to move. Late at night, when the dew had thickened, a servant suddenly came to report. Concubine Zhen had a heart attack, and the young master had gone to her courtyard. I slowly opened my eyes. Same old trick. Can't they come up with anything new? The old maid delivering the message peeked at my face, clearly waiting for drama. They were obviously testing me. On our wedding night, a concubine steps out of line. Does the young master not know the rules? And even if he doesn't, surely the Marquis and Marchioness do? Trying to sit back and watch the drama? Dream on. In fact, there are already classic strategies to deal with this kind of house scheme. Option 1. Appeal to your husband emotionally, reason with him logically, then send a royal physician to treat the concubine. He'd be moved and ashamed. Option 2. Say nothing and secretly inform the emperor the next day. Let him punish the Xiaoshan Marquis' household for defying a royal decree and take the concubine down a notch in the process. But today, I was too tired to play games. Qingji Bailu. Here. The 2 maids beside me bowed respectfully. I tapped the table lightly with my fingers, a faint cold smile in my eyes. Bring concubine Zhen here. Since she can't leave the young master's side, then fine. Let her join us and watch our wedding night unfold together.
2.
By the next morning, the whole Marquis' household was gossiping. The new bride was fierce. Despite concubine Zhen wailing and sobbing, the bride had her carried into the bridal chamber right in front of the young master. Soon after, the young master, Wei Jinfeng, had a meltdown and pointed at me, yelling, "Are you crazy?" I stayed perfectly calm, ordering the servants to shut the doors to both the room and the courtyard. No one was getting out, no matter how hard he pounded in anger. The Marquis and Marchioness's servants came rushing over, only to be stopped outside. When they questioned the guards, the doorkeeper replied smoothly, "Surely the Marquis and Marchioness wouldn't want to interrupt the couple's wedding night? Is one concubine's tantrum not enough, and now even the elders are trying to interfere? Could it be you're unhappy with His Majesty's decree and doing everything you can to obstruct it?" That triple blow shut them right up. They'd been hiding and watching the spectacle. Now they wanted to step in? Too late. I'd make sure they got the full show. That night, the whole Marquis' residence barely got any sleep, not just Wei Jinfeng and concubine Zhen. But I slept like a baby. By the time dawn broke, I finally woke, fully rested and glowing with energy. Only then did the servants open the door. Wei Jinfeng and concubine Zhen bolted like something was chasing them. Last night, he'd ranted and raved, accusing me of violating the 7 grounds for divorce, and swore he'd report me to the emperor and have me dismissed. He annoyed me, so I had him sent off to the side room, originally meant for the night shift servants, to sleep with concubine Zhen. And I kindly reminded them to keep it down so as not to disturb my sleep. Wei Jinfeng nearly went mad, and concubine Zhen couldn't even cry anymore. Unfortunately for them, I had all their servants locked out so they could scream all night. It wouldn't help. They made it through the night by sheer willpower. Before he left, Wei Jinfeng threw out a threat through gritted teeth. "Shenjiu, you're good. You're really good."
Of course I am. He didn't need to tell me.
3. I calmly freshened up, had my breakfast, and prepared to go pay my respects to my mother-in-law and the sisters-in-law. Normally, the husband would accompany the bride, but Wei Jinfeng refused, so I had to go alone. My mother-in-law sat at the head seat, her face dark as the bottom of a pot. Sure, you were raised as a noble lady. How could you act so wildly and unvirtuously? On your wedding night, you dared to coerce your husband and threaten your in-laws. The sisters-in-law looked at me with a mix of curiosity and glee. To be hated by both husband and mother-in-law on day one, clearly, in their eyes, I was done for. But what was my mother-in-law talking about? Everything I did yesterday was to protect the Marquis's household's honor and reputation. If word got out that a concubine disrupted the bridal chamber on the wedding night, wouldn't that be seen as defying the emperor's will? The Marquis and Marchioness sending people to interrogate me, those who know might say it's concern, but those who don't might think you're deliberately sabotaging the marriage. I spoke calmly, every word shutting her down. You fine, but you should have handled it more gently. Yet you locked up the young master on your wedding night. How are we supposed to keep face in this household? I let out a cold laugh. What is he, a child? Does he need someone to teach him right from wrong? And if your advice meant anything to him, he wouldn't have let lust cloud his judgment. I waited all night for someone with sense to appear, but no one came. Makes me wonder if the Marquis's family just doesn't think much of a Shin family. My grandfather is a great general, my uncles have countless military honors and imperial commendations. If I did nothing, what face would my family have left? The Shin family has always stood tall. Why should I endure humiliation? None of them expected me to be this bold. On the first day, I invoked the Shin family name and shut them all up. My mother-in-law was furious, gritting her teeth. Fine, fine. What a wonderful daughter-in-law I've married. It was the second time that morning someone from the Wei family said I was good. Clearly, I'd already won their deep respect.
4.
The second day after the wedding was very busy. After paying respects to my mother-in-law with tea, we still had to go to the palace to express our gratitude. This time, Wei Jinfeng had no choice but to go. The emperor and empress received us in the empress's bedchamber, a very formal occasion. Wei Jinfeng stood far away from me, his expression cold, clearly keeping his distance out of respect. The emperor must have already known about what happened last night because he deliberately asked, "Lord Wei, are you satisfied with the marriage I bestowed upon you?" Wei Jinfeng didn't dare speak carelessly. Your Majesty's arranged marriage is a favor to the Wei family. How could I be dissatisfied? Oh, it sounds like Lord Wei feels a bit wronged. I dare not. Wei Jinfeng paused, but couldn't help himself. I just didn't expect Lady Shin to be so formidable. The emperor held back a laugh and replied seriously. A general's tiger daughter is naturally different from those raised in the inner chambers of the capital. Lord Wei must be more accommodating. Seeing the emperor's favor, Wei Jinfeng swallowed his words about divorcing me. Since he was so sensible, the emperor naturally had to give him some face, so he pretended to be stern. Lady Shin, since you are now a married woman, you must restrain your temper and focus on supporting your husband and educating your children. I kept my expression neutral and said, "Last night, this daughter was too eager to complete the task entrusted by your Majesty and failed to consider Lord Wei's feelings, acting rashly." The usually calm and elegant empress suddenly couldn't hold back and spat out her tea. The emperor's face twisted slightly. Nonsense. Do you think this is a military order? Shen Wanyan's campaigns are impressive, but he ended up raising his granddaughter to be a tomboy. Oh well, you must behave yourself from now on. Hearing him praise my grandfather, I couldn't help but mutter softly. If it was Grandpa teaching me, he'd have beaten me until I couldn't get out of bed. The emperor and empress stared in shock, and Wei Jinfeng shrank back, moving even further away from me. After some small talk, the emperor finally allowed us to leave. The empress, who had been silently smiling by the side, suddenly said, "I find General Shin's granddaughter quite interesting. I'd like to keep her here to chat a little longer." She looked at the emperor expectantly. The emperor glanced at me, then at the gentle empress, and suddenly imagined his favorite concubine kneeling in a row, forced to watch him and the empress being affectionate. He shuddered involuntarily. They must be tired today. Empress, perhaps another day.
5.
As soon as we returned to the manor, Wei Jinfeng dashed straight to Aunt Shen's courtyard. Anyway, all the formalities were over. I was relieved. No more than half a day of peace. My mother-in-law sent a maid to tell me, starting tomorrow, I must pay respects every day. This is a rule set by the ancestors of the Ho family. Even the heavenly king himself couldn't say no to it. The maid was afraid I'd do something outrageous again, so she warned me seriously. The old madam wakes early. Lady Wei, don't be lazy and be late. Got it. I waved my hand impatiently. I might be a bit rash, but I'm not uncultured. Grandpa's military rules were probably stricter than this. Isn't it just paying respects? Before marriage, I paid respects to my elders every day. So the next day, at dawn, I arrived at my mother-in-law's courtyard. The maid opening the door rubbed her eyes, startled. Lady Wei? So early. I glanced at the sky. Not early, it's almost dawn. Having spent years outside the pass with my grandfather and cousins, we were used to waking early. Who in the military sleeps till late morning? The first day of the wedding didn't count. I was too tired that night. But the courtyard was quiet. None of my sisters-in-law had come. The maid gave a fake smile. The old madam hasn't risen yet. Lady Wei, you'll have to wait a while. So, they only want me to come early just to set rules for me? They think making me stand in the cold courtyard is punishment? What a joke. I stretched and warmed up with a set of martial arts forms in the spacious courtyard. Just as I was practicing with vigorous movements, my mother-in-law's personal attendant came out, fastening the button at her neck. Madam, you're making too much noise, and woke the old madam. I stopped. But mother specifically told me to come pay respects. Manners must not be neglected. You can't come so early and practice in the courtyard. How can the old madam rest? I glanced at the dark main room. It's fine, let mother continue sleeping. I'll practice and wait. The attendant was exasperated. At that moment, a light turned on inside the main room. A shadow trembled against the paper window, and my mother-in-law grumbled. Let her in quickly. I don't know how long this will go on. 6. Mother-in-law was still sleepy and in a bad mood. Are you here to pay respects, or to annoy me? The daughters-in-law from the second and third sons come quietly and wait. Only you. I thought a street performer had sneaked into the courtyard. Oh, all right. I obediently responded. The next day, before dawn again, I knocked loudly on the courtyard door. The maid rushed out, panicking and even tripped. Madam, you woke the whole courtyard. I scratched my head awkwardly. Can't help it, I'm strong. Mother-in-law said no more practicing, so I stood in a horse stance and ran a few laps around the courtyard. On the third day, I practiced swordsmanship. On the fourth, I even brought a few maids to train with me. They married into the Bo family with me and had neglected their practice. Honestly, waking early to train really refreshes the spirit. But mother-in-law was the opposite. Her dark circles seemed ready to drop off, her complexion gray and worn. She dozed off little by little, feeling like she was about to fall asleep at any moment while eating tea. Jiu, don't come pay respects tomorrow. Get more rest, she said weakly. How can I? Paying respects daily is the ancestors' rule. I dare not disobey. No need. If I say you don't come, then don't. Listen to me.
No way.
The attendant said even the heavenly king wouldn't dare say no. I don't want others to think I'm disrespectful. Don't come if I say don't. Can't you understand? Mother-in-law suddenly snapped angrily, startling me. She was mad. Her words weren't to be taken seriously. After that day, I kept coming. Not only me, but other sisters-in-law, hearing that I got up early every day to pay respects, felt embarrassed to come late. They yawned and stood with me outside mother-in-law's door. Sister-in-law, why do you get up so early? Don't you need to sleep? Their eyes had a trace of resentment. I'm alone in an empty room with nothing to do, so I just get up early. I casually made up an excuse. But someone with a sharp ear overheard. That night, Wei Jinfeng was sent packing into my courtyard. 7. Shenjiu, you really went to great lengths to get me here. He gritted his teeth, but since it was his mother's order, he couldn't disobey. I took off my hairpin in front of the mirror, sneering. If I wanted you here, would I really need to scheme so much? He suddenly remembered being locked in my room that wedding night, unable to leave, and his face immediately darkened. If I wanted him, I'd have just tied him up and brought him over. No need for roundabout tricks. Since that night, Anshin avoided me whenever she saw me. She knew I was a headstrong mistress who didn't follow the usual rules, so she dared not provoke me again. Recently, Wei Jinfeng had been staying at her place, making her nervous every day. Today, when she heard he was coming here, she finally relaxed. If you want me to consummate our marriage, not a chance unless I'm dead, he shouted. TSK, still a pure and chaste man. I shrugged indifferently, pointing to the outer room. If you want to leave, go ahead. If not, you'll have to sleep there. Wei Jinfeng stomped angrily and paced around the room like a headless fly, then finally flung his sleeves and went to the outer room's couch. Even though I was rude, he didn't leave. Looks like mother-in-law really laid down the law. To stop me from paying morning respects, mother-in-law went all out. Just to be sure, she posted a sign at her courtyard gate that day, boldly stating, "Due to Lady Ho's poor health, the imperial physician has strictly ordered that no one disturb her early in the morning. Anyone who insists will be deemed unfilial." Great, now not only do I not have to pay respects, but the other younger members are off the hook too. Those daughters-in-law and granddaughters-in-law who couldn't get up early secretly thanked me. The heir's wife was really a good person. Some were happy, some were not. I didn't have to go to mother-in-law's courtyard, but I still had to train. So every early morning, the one who couldn't sleep became Wei Jinfeng. At first, he was furious, saying I was deliberately torturing him. Later, seeing I ignored him completely, he slowly resigned himself. Since he was up anyway, might as well not waste it. He dug out a nearly rusty sword he hadn't used in ages and practiced a few rounds in the courtyard. Sometimes, seeing me and the maids having fun training, he joined in for a few moves. I was straightforward and fair, no grudges, so I patiently sparred with him. After over a month, Wei Jinfeng felt lighter and fitter. His slightly overweight figure returned to the tall, slender youth he once was. Especially at the month-end polo match in the capital, he played 2 sessions without tiring. When all the ladies in the city cast admiring glances his way, he secretly smiled. Looks like marrying you wasn't entirely pointless. From that day on, even without mother-in-law's order, he spent more than half the month resting on the soft couch in my room's adjoining chamber. Outsiders thought our marriage was getting better and better, and again some people grew restless.
8.
One day, mother-in-law was drinking tea with a few daughters-in-law, chatting casually but unusually called me over. "You've been here a few months now. As the eldest daughter-in-law and head of the clan women, you should take over managing the Ho household's internal affairs." She glanced at the second daughter-in-law. I'd heard that the former heir's wife had poor health, so the household management had always been handled by the second daughter-in-law, Xiao. Xiao quickly stood up. "Sister-in-law's arrival means I can finally relieve myself of this burden. Today I'll hand over the accounts and the keys to the storeroom to you." Though she said that, a calculating gleam flashed to her eyes. One I didn't miss. She was mother-in-law's niece by blood, so they should be on the same side. What game was she playing now? I looked thoughtfully at everyone, noticing the youngest daughter-in-law, Lu, wearing an expression as if enjoying the drama. Before long, the steward brought a thick pile of account books and set them before me. Looking at the densely written ledgers gave me a headache. I was good at military campaigns, but bookkeeping? Xiao wore a smug smile. "I heard you grew up on the frontier, probably never dealt with these mundane affairs. I'll teach you slowly from now on." Mother-in-law closed her eyes slightly, a satisfied look on her face. "You're the eldest daughter-in-law, but if you don't understand something, you should humbly ask." Xiao flipped open a ledger and suddenly frowned. "To be honest, our household looks prosperous, but we're struggling. Every month we have losses. Previously, Mother and I covered the gap with our dowry. Now that you're here, we can finally breathe easier." No wonder they were eyeing my dowry. I caught a mocking smile flash across Lu's face. Xiao kept babbling, but I raised my hand to stop her. Who says I can't read accounts? Sister-in-law, don't worry, I'll review them before deciding. Mother-in-law's smile stiffened as she exchanged a glance with Xiao. The next day, when they saw four accountants sitting in the study, calculating with abacuses, their faces went green. What? What are you doing? I smiled faintly. These are my grandfather's clerks who managed army funds and supplies. They've handled countless funds. With them here, the whole household's accounts will be crystal clear. This is for mother-in-law and sister-in-law's peace of mind.
9.
Nonsense. This is the whole family's internal affairs. How can you use officers from General Shun's army for this? Mother-in-law was the first to object. If you have any grievances against me, sister-in-law, just say so. Why be so aggressive and bring outsiders to shame your own family? Second sister-in-law, Xiao, wiped her tears, looking aggrieved. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, please don't misunderstand. When His Majesty arranged the marriage, my grandfather told me that managing the household affairs of the Xiaoshan House residence rests with the lady of the house. He feared that a wild girl raised at the frontier wouldn't understand and might delay matters. So he specially assigned these four clerk officers to help me handle the accounts. They're practically family and would never betray us. I raised the deed contract in my hand. If mother-in-law hadn't mentioned it, I would have thought these four were useless and might have sent them back to the army. But since mother-in-law trusts me with the household accounts, as your daughter-in-law, I will do my utmost not to disappoint. Mother-in-law's trembling lips couldn't form words, her expression as if she wanted to slap herself twice. Behind her, Xiao shot a sharp glance at mother-in-law's back. Before they could come up with more excuses, one clerk approached Xiao with the ledger, respectfully saying, "Second madam, some accounts don't add up. I'd like to bring in the previous accountants for reconciliation." Xiao's face instantly turned pale. The extreme reactions of the old and young made everyone suspect there was something fishy in the accounts. Sure enough, after the 4 worked day and night for 3 days, everyone was shocked to find the Ho residence's deficit was not small at all. And instead of covering losses with her own dowry as she claimed, Xiao had secretly transferred large sums of silver and assets away. I coldly threw the ledger in front of her. Second sister-in-law, care to explain? Xiao collapsed on the floor, eyes pleading at mother-in-law. Mother-in-law slammed the table hard. Sure, you've gone too far. Investigating family affairs like this. Is your goal to tear this family apart? I wasn't afraid at all. That's strange. Second sister-in-law managed the household for 3 years, yet the accounts are a mess and the huge fortune unaccounted for. Mother-in-law isn't rushing to recover it, but instead blames me for checking? That's truly baffling. Xiao was just the second wife of the second branch. No way could she act so brazenly alone. Nobody would believe this was without mother-in-law's tacit approval, or even participation. Mother-in-law couldn't tolerate it any longer and began throwing a tantrum. "Oh, now you even suspect me? The dignified Ho madam, am being slandered by you. I can't live like this. Quickly call the heir so he can see how his good wife is tormenting his own mother."
10.
I remained unmoved. Mother, proving innocence is easy. My people are experts. They'll have everything checked clearly in a few days. Then I will apologize to you. Then I ordered the 2 maids, Lan Shuang, Zi Xiao, escort second madam back to her room. Until this is cleared up, no contact with outsiders. I also instructed several trusted attendants and the clerks to seal the storeroom and ledgers. No one may approach without my order. Xiao, frightened by my determination, didn't resist and was taken away by the maids. Mother-in-law collapsed into a chair. Sure, are you treating us like criminals? Just then, Wei Jinfeng burst in, anxious. Sure, what madness is this? How dare you defy mother-in-law? Kneel and apologize. I was a bit annoyed. Is this guy an idiot? I waved dismissively, and Lan Ji and Bai Lu each grabbed Wei Jinfeng by an arm. Son-in-law, madam is busy checking accounts. Please stay out of the household affairs. Wei Jinfeng was horrified to find he couldn't move against the usually respectful maids. Shun Jiyu, defying mother-in-law isn't enough. You're trying to harm your own husband.
I.
Fine, fine. When you've embarrassed yourself enough, leaving is less shameful. Suddenly a voice at the door commanded, "Enough of this nonsense. Isn't this embarrassing enough?" The voice was soft but authoritative. Everyone instantly fell silent. I smiled slightly. With all this commotion, the main person finally appeared. Old Ho-wei slowly walked in. Though aged, his eyes remained sharp and his step steady.
He spoke bluntly.
Eldest daughter-in-law, must it come to this? I stood and bowed. Father, forgive my frankness. The Ho estate is rotten to the core. If we don't thoroughly investigate, our century-old legacy will be lost. Quietly, I added in my mind, and you as the head of the family won't escape responsibility either. Old Ho glanced around, then at the open ledger on the table, sighed. Very well, but family disgrace must not be spread outside. Eldest daughter-in-law, handle it internally and show mercy where you can. I lifted my head to meet his gaze. Father, the reason I had my people guard my sister-in-law's storeroom and the accounts is precisely to prevent any leaks, so no one with ill intent can spread rumors outside and ruin the Marquis house's reputation. Rest assured, with me here, the Marquis house will be as tight as a drum, sealed without a single crack. The old Marquis glanced at my personal attendants standing guard by the door, and the two maids holding Wei Jinfeng in the hall, then gave a bitter smile. So, you've brought the old General Shun's military discipline into my Marquis house? Fine. This mess is exactly what you should clean up. He then ordered all servants in the estate to obey the Lady of the Air without question. Anyone caught pretending to comply while secretly disobeying or leaking information would be severely punished. My mother-in-law's eyes went blank, and she slumped in her seat, unable to move. Father, Wei Jinfeng stammered when he saw the old Marquis, like a mouse facing a cat. The old Marquis shot him a sharp look. You useless thing. Watch closely how your wife handles things. With the head of the family's approval, I acted even more decisively. At least no more elder family members who relied on their age came to scold me for disrespect or disobedience every day. My team moved swiftly and uncovered the destination of the missing huge sums of silver. It had all been transferred by Qiao to her natal family. Moreover, properties bought under the Qiao family's name were actually controlled by the second branch of the family. So the heir was just a figurehead while the family fortune was being hollowed out. Qiao's natal family was also my mother-in-law's family, their ruthless ambitions obvious. The factional struggles inside the estate were deeply rooted. Those family servants, relying on their masters, ran rampant. Embezzlement, bribery, factionalism, turning the estate into chaos. My mother-in-law and second sister-in-law were the bosses. I promised the old Marquis I'd be lenient, so I spared them. But I arrested every maid, steward, and servant involved, announcing their crimes publicly one by one, then ordered them flogged and sold off. To prevent them from defaming the Marquis house outside, I sent them all to serve hard labor in the border military under my uncle's command. More than half the estate was emptied, and the remaining people lived in constant fear. The servants close to my mother-in-law and second sister-in-law were replaced with new ones I appointed. Now those two were mere ornaments, unable to stir up trouble. But I wasn't interested in running the Marquis house and was worried about filling the vacancies. Then my third sister-in-law, Lu, arrived. She bowed deeply as soon as she saw me. Sister-in-law, I stood by and did nothing before, but I deserve death for that. I beg your forgiveness. She was sensible. If she had come flattering me right away, I might have despised her. My mother-in-law and second sister-in-law have controlled the Marquis house for years, never paying the monthly stipends on time. Our third branch has been relying on my dowry to get by, and they've constantly made things difficult and humiliating for us, Lu said tearfully. Her family was an ordinary official's household, and judging by her worn clothes, her life hadn't been easy these years. When you first came in, sister-in-law, I wanted to warn you, but I couldn't protect myself. You don't know their methods. Actually, the previous heir's wife was forced to death by them. Heh, I had suspected that long ago. Good people aren't fragile like paper. No one just disappears without reason. That's why I hated those instigators. If not for them, I wouldn't have been forced to marry into this as a second wife. Now that sister-in-law has stood up for me, I'm willing to accept whatever punishment you decide. Lu wiped her tears, looking ready to face death fearlessly. I couldn't help but smile. I'm no king of hell. Is it that scary? Right now, the estate needs people. I'm unfamiliar with the local power players in the capital. How about you recommend some people from your side? Can sister-in-law really trust me? Lu's eyes brightened. Of course. As long as you're upright, there's no reason not to trust you. If you play tricks, I have my own ways to deal with you. That's right. Though sister-in-law is younger than us all, even the old marquis has to give way to your presence. Who dares pull tricks under your nose? They get their skin peeled off. Lu came crying and left happily. Just after comforting my younger sister-in-law, Wei Jinfeng stormed in with a dark face. He had tried several times to see me these days but was blocked, too busy, no time for his moods. Finally free, he barged in and accused me. Shen, you've turned the marquis house upside down since you came. Mother can't eat or sleep now, and second brother is estranged from me. What exactly do you want? I ignored his words and looked at him with sympathy. Are you really your mother's biological son? What? He didn't catch it. I repeated. Are you really your mother's biological son? Who are you insulting? You're not even biological. Neither is your whole family, he raged. I cut him off. Then why does your mother tolerate you favoring concubines to destroy your wife, ruin your reputation, so no one dares marry you, transfer assets behind your back, and strip you of your rightful inheritance? 13. You, stop sowing discord. Sowing discord? Then think carefully about what your second brother is doing now. Your reputation is notorious outside. The rotten mess in the Marquis's mansion is well known, yet he's hiding out nicely, studying diligently in the study. His wife controls all the family assets of the Marquis's mansion, earning a fortune daily. Outside, everyone says Wei's second son is a refined gentleman with a bright future, just unfortunate to be born at the wrong time, or else he would have taken your place. Wei Jinfeng was stunned for a long moment, murmuring, That's impossible. Mother wouldn't treat me like that. I snorted coldly. How did your former wife die? Don't tell me she really was driven to death by consort Jin. Just a concubine. Where would she get the nerve to run wild over the crown princess? Suddenly Wei Jinfeng recalled that before marrying me, his stepmother said the Shin family was strong, and to avoid being controlled by me in the future, it would be best to give me a warning right at the start. He also realized that if things had gone as his stepmother wished, no one would marry him, so he wouldn't have an heir, and he would have to give up the position of heir eventually. Thinking further about the gossip among colleagues and his father's increasingly disappointed gaze, he suddenly stood up and strode out. Soon, a scream came from the side courtyard. Consort Jin was shouting in pain. Qingji worriedly said, Should I go check? Make sure no one dies. I calmly sipped my tea. No need, he doesn't have the guts. Not long after, Wei Jinfeng returned, looking lost and dejected. After strangling Consort Jin, she finally confessed the truth, admitting to all the slanders and provocations against the former crown princess, and revealed that behind it all were the stepmother and second sister-in-law advising and supporting her. I'm sorry, Lady Li. I didn't expect that bitch Shin deceived me. Wei Jinfeng painfully held his head. I watched coldly. Without his indulgence, Consort Jin wouldn't have been so arrogant. Now regretting it is useless, and he's blaming another woman for everything. Men's so-called deep affection is cheaper than grass.
Why?
Am I really not your biological son? He suddenly looked up at me, but the investigation made him even more disappointed. He was indeed his mother's biological son. Everything was simply because the stepmother favored the second son. Wei Jinfeng lost all backbone, spending his days in my room either drinking or staring blankly at the ceiling. He said this mansion was the only place he felt safe, begging me not to kick him out. I don't usually take advantage of someone down and out, but I did find him annoying. After one drunken night, I had someone carry him and the bed to a side room. He just groaned like a dead pig. I looked at him with disdain. If I were his mother, I wouldn't like such a weak and foolish son either. 14. Life in the Marquis' mansion grew more and more dull. The stepmother had become a mascot. The second sister-in-law dared not leave the house. Consort Jin kept her tail tucked. The old Marquis pretended to be dead, and the heir got drunk. The servants and staff were even more respectful to me. They only recognized the crown princess, no other masters. I held the purse strings and personnel power of the Marquis' mansion, sighing and staring at the sky every day. I recalled my mother's words before I left on the bridal sedan. This is for the good of the Marquis' mansion. Since I didn't deal a fatal blow, the emperor shouldn't blame me. Only Lucia was busy every day. I handed many of the mansion's affairs to her. She was happy but puzzled. In other families, the lady of the house holds the steward's power herself. But why does sister-in-law give it to me? I idly twirled the tassel of my sword and casually asked, "What do you think?" Lucia smiled with pursed lips. "I think the Marquis' mansion is just a small patch of land, and sister-in-law doesn't really care about it." I paused. Lucia was smart enough to see where my heart wasn't. The sky was clear and cloudless, reminding me of the days in the borderlands, riding horses with swords drawn, wild and free. Through the open window, a pigeon fluttered in. Seeing Lucia's departing back, I finally reached out and caught it. Turning it over, a small message tube was tied to its slender leg. My heart warmed. Could it be that the day I return is really not far off? 15. In an alley behind the mansion, a tall figure stood with his back to me. "Fourth brother," I called excitedly. The young man turned around, his face darkened by the wind and sun of the frontier, but breaking into a bright smile that made his neat teeth gleam. "Ayu." "Fourth brother, is grandfather well? Uncle? Eldest brother, second brother, third brother. Are they all well?" I was so happy, I stumbled over my words. He studied me with a strange look. "They're fine, all fine. Ayu, I really can't get used to you wearing skirts and having your hair up like this." I looked down at myself, then lifted my skirt and twirled, pretending to be shy. "How do I look? Am I pretty?" "Pretty?" Fourth brother made a face as if about to vomit. At least 10 years older. I punched his chest in frustration, and he laughed, clutching his chest as he stepped back. "Don't know if General Nye would like it though." My face reddened.
Nyeyun.
He was the one I secretly liked at the frontier, and my cousins teased me about it every day. When I learned the emperor arranged a marriage, I didn't even dare meet him and left the frontier overnight. I wondered if he still remembered me. Snapping back to reality, I gave fourth brother a playful neck twist. "Dummy fourth brother, you're always talking nonsense. You're the crown princess. Mind your image. Let me go. Grandfather asked me to bring you some beef jerky." "That's more like it. Hurry and give it here." We laughed and chatted, completely unaware that someone in the shadows at the alley's entrance was watching everything. 16. Returning to the Earl's mansion, I found Wei Jinfeng sitting on my bed. Usually, he stayed in his own room. We kept to ourselves, and I let it be. "What are you doing here?" I wasn't used to strangers sitting on my bed. "This is my room. Why can't I come?" he replied, unusually bold. "Who did you visit today? I've never seen you this happy before." So he knew. My cousin. He came back to the capital from the border on official business and stopped by to see me. I told the truth. "If he's your cousin, why not invite him into the mansion for a proper visit?" he pressed. "I told you, he's busy with official duties and only came to see me briefly," I said impatiently. Unexpectedly, Wei Jinfeng grabbed my wrist.
"A you?" Such a warm way to say it.
"You've been married and for so long but won't consummate with me. Are you hiding someone else in your heart?" I shook off his hand. "Are you crazy? That's my cousin." "What nonsense are you talking about?" His face flushed red. Fine, I'm talking nonsense. But who's that General Nye? How many lovers do you have that I don't know about?" "Wei Jinfeng, did you take the wrong medicine today?" Not only eavesdropping on me, but spouting nonsense here? Don't forget, you said once, we won't consummate unless you're dead. Suddenly he stood, reckless, circling my arms and trapping me in his embrace. I've changed my mind. We're consummating now. I was almost laughing from anger. You say consummate, but did you ask me? His face loomed close, hot breath on mine. A flash of cold cruelty sparked in my eyes as I leaned back slightly and hit him with a headbutt. I'd used this move countless times when enemies trapped my arms, not necessarily to cause a brain hemorrhage, but enough to stun them for a good while. Wei Jinfeng screamed and fell back, blood spurting from both nostrils. Shinjiu, you're too cruel. He tried to get up, but was too dizzy to stand. I rubbed my aching forehead. Damn it, I was so furious I'd used a move that hurt him almost as much as it hurt me. The angrier I got, the faster I stepped forward to pry his arms off me. His screams echoed through the mansion. The maids rushed in, not to protect me, but to pull me off. Madam, mistress, little ancestor, stop now. If you don't, you'll soon be a widow. 17. Wei Jinfeng once boasted of training under famous masters and having decent martial skills. But after today, he realized the maids and I had only been humoring him. More screams followed. Bailu helped him up. The maids wore stern faces. Young master, next time you court death, we don't know if we'll be able to save you. Wei Jinfeng finally understood that his grandfather had sent those 4 maids not to protect me, but to restrain me. Knowing he had gone too far, I went to check on him once my anger cooled. Seeing his battered forehead, I felt a bit embarrassed. The autumn hunt was about to start. If the emperor or other noble families saw him like this, my father wouldn't be able to explain. A you? Surprisingly, he still had a stubborn streak and tentatively called me. I frowned, and he quickly corrected himself. Shunjiu, you still care about me, right? I was speechless, but he continued. In this entire mansion, mother favors my younger brother, father ignores everything, brothers look down on me, women scheme against me. Only you stand up for me, fight for my inheritance, and give me advice. You care about me. I'm a stepmother. This man is much older than me, but at this moment, he poured out his heart like a child. I know I owe you a lot, but you don't have to offer yourself. I disapproved and shook my head. What? He was stunned, then bitterly smiled. As expected of you, Shinjiu, but we're already married. The emperor arranged this marriage, and our fates are bound. Why won't you try? I'll be a good husband. He looked at me with hopeful eyes. I silently stood and turned away. His expression darkened. Is there really nothing that can make you stay? He whispered, watching my retreating back.
18.
The autumn hunt began. The emperor led civil and military officials and their families in a grand procession to the hunting palace. Wei Jinfeng wore a soft hat, odd-looking, but at least it hid the shocking bruises on his forehead. I sat with my grandmother-in-law and the second brother's wife in a carriage. They avoided me, sitting close together in one corner, quietly complaining. Why ride your own carriage when you want to freeload on ours? Those from the border are so petty. I smiled and didn't mind. I had the whole row of cushioned seats to myself. Lady Ho's carriage is much bigger than mine. It's comfortable, I said, watching enviously the guards and generals riding outside. Wei Jinfeng rode beside the carriage, bending over and whispering through the curtain. Jiu, do you want to ride a horse? I specially brought one from the mansion. No, it's been too long, I'm rusty. I'm more comfortable in the carriage. His expression dimmed. Grandmother-in-law snorted. The young master only has eyes for his wife now, no mother. The whole family is in the carriage, but he only cares for her. How embarrassing. Since learning the truth, Wei Jinfeng had grown distant from her. Xiao covered her mouth with a handkerchief. Too bad the warm face meets a cold back. Miss Shin doesn't fancy him at all. Wei Jinfeng suddenly clenched the reins tightly. I gave Xiao a half-smile. She immediately shut her mouth in fear. We stopped midway to rest. I got out to stretch. From afar, a figure galloped toward us on horseback.
A you.
Fourth brother. Before we could speak, Wei Jinfeng appeared from somewhere and blocked my way. So this is fourth uncle? What brings you to see my wife? I'm Wei, happy to help. Fourth brother was momentarily stunned. I, annoyed, tugged at Wei Jinfeng. Wei Jinfeng, what are you doing? Fourth brother caught on and smirked. So the young master's here to protect his sister. Then I won't disturb you. He winked at me, stopping my outburst just in time. I slammed the carriage curtain shut and got inside. The two women eavesdropping by the door quickly sat properly. Wei Jinfeng whispered from outside the window. I'm tired, I interrupted, closing my eyes. After a long while, I heard him leave. 19. After settling into the hunting camp, the hunt was about to begin. Flags fluttered and horns blared, stirring excitement in everyone. But I'm still wearing a silk dress, it's cold outside, and I have a cotton cloak over it. Seeing my restless eagerness, Wei Jinfeng pulled out a set of hunting clothes. Jiyu, if you want to practice, I'll go with you. It was a woman's hunting outfit, seemingly tailored just for me. I glanced at it, tightened my cloak around me, and said, I'm not feeling well today, so I'll skip the fun. Not feeling well? I'll get the imperial physician for you. No need. Then I'll have someone make tea for you. No need. Then, I said no need. Aren't you annoying? Wei Jinfeng froze, holding the hunting clothes in his hands. Shunjiu, do you hate me that much? I rolled my eyes, suddenly missing the old days when we ignored each other. When the hunt began, Wei Jinfeng gloomily left the camp. I stood outside my tent, anxiously watching around. Behind me, my mother-in-law and Xiao whispered, Look how distracted she is. Who is she waiting for? How shameless. Distracted? Am I really that obvious? At dusk, the hunters returned. Wei Jinfeng rode his horse swiftly towards the tent, dragging a string of game behind him. Seeing me standing at the entrance, he brightened up. Jiyu, look what I hunted for you. He offered the game like a gift, but I looked past him, at someone behind. Fourth brother. His heart sank as he looked back. A tall, upright youth reined his horse in, the steed neighing and rearing high on its front legs. He held the reins with one hand and tossed a furry bundle over. Jiyu, this is for you. I caught it and hugged it tightly. The youth spurred his horse in a few circles, gave me a meaningful smile, ignored Wei Jinfeng's dark glare, and turned away. Jiyu, what do you mean by this? Wei Jinfeng's face darkened.
20.
Why do you only want his, not mine? What kind of question was that? I had a headache and didn't want to argue, so I stretched out my hand. I want yours too, okay? Wei Jinfeng, encouraged by this childish coaxing, pushed further. Fine. You can have mine too, just throw his away. You're crazy. He reached to grab me. I finally lost it and kicked him. I kicked him out of the tent entrance by more than a yard. With a spit, he coughed up a mouthful of old blood, staining his clothes. I didn't even use much force, I thought, annoyed. My mother-in-law and Xiao rushed out of the nearby tent, shocked by the scene. They hurried to Wei Jinfeng's side. Damn it, hitting your own husband like that. Hurry, get the imperial physician. My son, I told you she has no good intentions, always trying to drive a wedge between us. Wei Jinfeng looked miserable, but I knew my own strength. He probably just got a blood pressure spike, nothing serious. So I ignored them and turned into the tent. Outside, Wei Jinfeng shouted hysterically. Shunji, you actually hit me all for him? You have no heart. I sighed heavily and carefully tucked the tent flap back. I set the wild rabbit I was holding tightly on the table, pulled a paper slip from its mouth. By the faint candlelight, I unfolded the note and saw just 4 characters. Tonight, second watch. I understood immediately and burned the note to ashes in the candle flame. When I left the tent, Wei Jinfeng was already being carried away. My mother-in-law and Xiao watched my tent door with ill intentions. When they saw me come out, they snorted and dropped the flap. 21. During the second watch, a figure quietly slipped into my tent. Fourth brother. Jiyu, are you ready? Yes, when do we move? According to intelligence, they plan to act tonight. Once they strike, we'll surround them. Before I could finish, there was a noise at the door. Quick as a flash, fourth brother grabbed the collar of the intruder and pulled him inside. In the moonlight filtering through the tent, it was a pale-faced Wei Jinfeng. Why is it you? I widened my eyes. Shun Jiu, you meeting him in secret? How can you do this to me? He looked pained. Before I could silence him, loud voices erupted outside. A group carrying torches approached. Leading them was the voice of my mother-in-law and Xiao. Catch the adulterers. Someone is meeting secretly at midnight, committing scandal right under the emperor's nose. Don't let the dog couple escape. Fourth brother gritted his teeth. Damn it. I spun around sharply to look at Wei Jinfeng on the ground. He kept waving his hands. No, it's not me. They must have followed me here. The tent flap was violently thrown open, and a crowd surged in. The torches instantly lit up the tent brightly. Mother-in-law and Xiao stood proudly in front. Shun family, you secretly meet men at midnight, bringing shame to the heir apparent. Any words to say? I squinted to assess the situation. Fortunately, apart from mother-in-law and Xiao, the rest were just camp guards and servants on night duty. It was late. Other officials and families had retired. They wanted to catch me before I escaped, so they sent people to catch me in the act. Mother-in-law, second sister-in-law, you really misunderstand. Let me explain, I said, giving fourth brother a look. He understood and moved to block their path at the door. Without any obvious move, the torches in their hands went out simultaneously. The servants were about to resist, but I grabbed one by the hair and with my curved dagger slashed his neck. Blood sprayed all over mother-in-law, who fainted instantly. With swift knife strikes, we killed several before anyone could scream. Xiao stood there with her mouth open, unable to shout, only repeating, "Murder! Murder!" The ground was soaked in the stench of blood. 22. You all killed them to silence witnesses. Wei Jinfeng's face also turned pale. I tore open the dead servant's outer clothes to reveal a layer of mysterious armor, the uniform of the border enemy's army. Xiao and Wei Jinfeng were dumbfounded. They had no idea the servants and guards at the hunting palace camp had long been replaced by enemy soldiers. At that moment, several flaming arrows whooshed in and struck the tent's roof, quickly setting the camp ablaze. Outside, shouts and cries of battle filled the air. Fourth brother's face darkened like still water. We've been exposed. We'll fight to the death. I ripped off my cloak and skirt, revealing a suit of purple gold armor beneath. We rushed out of the tent and drew several spears and long knives from beneath Lady Ho's carriage parked nearby. Qingji, Bailu, Lanshuang, and Zixiao appeared from some corner of the camp. Catching the weapons, I tossed them. You too, protect the officials and their families. You, join the Imperial Guards to protect the Emperor and Crown Prince. And you, head south to rendezvous with the reinforcements and lead them here. The four girls took their orders and each led a team rushing out. Wei Jinfeng and Xiao gaped in disbelief. No wonder you rode in a carriage. No wonder we didn't see your girls all day. The purple gold armor on me gleamed dazzlingly in the firelight. Wei Jinfeng looked at me fearfully. Jiu, did I ruin your plans? I stared into his eyes. You've been ruining my plans all along. Suppressing the urge to kill him, I mounted my horse. If anything happens to the Emperor, you'll be held responsible to the death. 23. The battle raged on until the next evening, when reinforcements arrived and encircled the infiltrating enemy forces. Small pockets of fleeing enemies were still being mopped up. Fortunately, the Emperor was unharmed, and most of the officials and their families were safe. I stood before the hunting palace, covered in blood. Many rescued officials and family members wanted to thank me, but hesitated to approach. Last night, I charged into the enemy ranks with a grim face, unleashing all my frustration on them. Shooting from afar, stabbing from close range, enemies fell like chopping melons and slicing vegetables. Blood and flesh flew before and behind me. No enemy that crossed my path survived. My armor and face were splattered with fresh blood, and in the firelight, I looked like a wrathful demon descended to earth. The enemies who saw me turned and fled, and the officials and family I protected fell silent in awe. Is this the lady of the Xiaoshan mansion? That family sure has luck to survive till today. Don't talk nonsense. This is General Shin's granddaughter. How could she slaughter innocents? Right. Without her, how could we be alive? Lady, you're mighty. Just as I was bloodthirsty, fourth brother stopped me. You stop. You've killed them all. Grandfather said we should keep survivors. I finally gasped for breath and stopped. I know you regret it, fourth brother said sympathetically. Though I usually acted carefree, I never took military matters lightly. No matter how cunning the enemy, I always prepared thoroughly, flawless in defense. But today, I was caught off guard by a mere Wei family member failing to notice their surveillance, which almost caused disaster. Even after winning, I was deeply frustrated. One slip on the battlefield could cost countless lives. If anything went wrong today, I couldn't forgive myself. Wei Jinfeng probably understood this too. He didn't dare see me until the clearing of enemy forces and awarding of merits were complete. 24. In the main hall of the hunting palace, the emperor sat at the head. After a short rest, he looked less disheveled than in previous days. Qing, so the old general discovered the situation early? Fourth brother bowed respectfully below. Your Majesty, grandfather noticed enemy movements a long time ago but didn't know their exact intentions, so he sent people back to the capital to gather intelligence. He glanced back at me behind him. A year ago, when the emperor decreed my arranged marriage, grandfather summoned me to his study. He had 5 sons. Only my father, weak since childhood, stayed in the capital as a civil official. Father always dreamed of being a hero but was unfit, so he pinned all hopes on me. At 3, I was sent to the border to grow up with my cousins under grandfather's care. Though a girl, I was strong and skilled in martial arts, which grandfather greatly favored, training me closely. I was destined to become a general. But now I had to marry. I didn't want to, but as the only daughter of the Shin family, who else could I marry? The emperor trusted and feared the Shin family, wanting to use this chance to strike a blow by marrying me off to the notorious Wei family as a second wife. My cousins all rebelled, eager to go to the capital to confront the emperor. Grandfather stopped them, saying my mission required secrecy. He wanted me positioned close to the emperor to assist covertly if action was taken. And marriage, by imperial decree, was the perfect cover. When the mission is done, grandfather will petition the emperor to grant you a divorce, so you can return to being a general. Would the emperor agree? I hesitated. Grandfather stroked the tiger tally in his hand. The emperor owes your grandfather this much face. So I set out without hesitation, leaving the border, the battlefield, and the man I loved. Duty is a soldier's destiny. My cousins, eyes red with tears, accompanied me reluctantly, but grandfather whipped them back. A real man isn't as decisive as a woman. What's the use of growing up so big? After arriving in the capital, every day felt like an eternity, so I found some relief in dealing with the Wei family. Just when I was about to die of boredom, fourth brother came to the capital. He used official business as an excuse to deliver a message. The enemy troops had begun their operation, and our men were quietly on the move. I, who had been secretly embedded in the Wei family, was their greatest inside ally close to the emperor. Grandfather gave me a strict order: keep the emperor absolutely safe. During the autumn hunt, fourth brother tried several times to send me messages, but Wei Jinfeng kept interfering. To avoid raising suspicion, we had to avoid meeting as much as possible. On the day of the hunt, fourth brother's men discovered enemy ambushes around the hunting grounds. The planned operation nearly went awry. Fortunately, our men disguised themselves as attendants and officials, staying close to the emperor and protecting him. That prevented a disaster. This time, the emperor said to me, "I've heard you fought bravely last night, killing many enemies and saving the emperor. What reward do you desire?" Thinking back to myself as a killing machine last night, I felt a bit ashamed and quickly bowed. Protecting the emperor is my duty. I dare not claim credit. Fourth brother was desperately signaling at me. I paused, then said, "Now the mission is complete. I ask the emperor to permit me to divorce and return to the border." The emperor's face showed a hint of displeasure. "Do you mean you only married under orders as a pretense? Do you think my edict is a joke? Besides, marriage is a serious matter. You can't just ask for a divorce. What about the Xiaoshan family? What about the Wei heir? Wei Jinfeng doesn't deserve my sister." Fourth brother suddenly blurted out. "Nonsense. The noble Bo family, a century-old household. The Wei heir is a fine young man. How is he unworthy of your sister?" As the argument stalled, Wei Jinfeng suddenly requested an audience. "Your Majesty, Miss Shun is loyal and brave, full of passion, but I nearly endangered you and the court out of selfish grudges. Compared to her, I'm truly unworthy." Everyone who barely escaped death last night was outraged upon learning the truth. If it weren't for the mad state of the matriarch and Mistress Jiao hiding indoors out of fear, they would have dragged the Wei family out for public punishment. Fortunately, the old Marquis stayed at the hunting palace last night, uniting with the emperor and other ministers against a common enemy, or else the Wei family might have been suspected as enemy spies. After the battle ended, the old Marquis knelt on the palace steps with Wei Jinfeng to beg forgiveness. At this moment, a flicker of amusement appeared on the emperor's face. "But now that you've repented, your sincerity towards Miss Shin can be considered compensation. How can you say you're unworthy?" Wei Jinfeng quietly took off his soft hat. The emperor sat up straight, surprised. "Wei Qing, what is this?" Wei Jinfeng glanced at me and whispered, "This was given by Miss Shen when she was angry. A few days ago, she dislocated my arm, and yesterday she kicked me until I coughed blood." The palace maids and eunuchs all gasped softly. "Miss Shun is formidable, but if we remain husband and wife, I won't survive. I beg your Majesty's understanding." The emperor clicked his teeth, as if empathizing. "Shin Qing, how could you be so harsh with your husband? Is that how your grandfather taught you?" I awkwardly tugged at my armor and said quietly, "I didn't try hard. Who knew he was so fragile?" Fourth brother muttered, "If Grandpa taught him, he wouldn't even be able to get out of bed." "What?" The emperor widened his eyes, and Wei Jinfeng nodded resignedly. "In that case." The emperor lowered his head, his gaze falling on the letter from my grandfather and the half-tiger tally on the table. "He still depends on the Shin family. Maybe it's best to just follow the natural course from here." The sunlight outside the hall was dazzling. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. Wei Jinfeng chased after me. "Jiyu, you're free now." "Inoved, Fangayu." He still seemed reluctant. "Do you really have no attachment at all?" I turned and walked down the long steps. Only then did Wei Jinfeng see the scene ahead. Banners fluttered, war horses neighed. A massive army lined up in perfect formation, majestic and imposing. At the front, banners in green, white, blue, and purple waved in the wind. These were the 4 major camps under my grandfather's command. The maids who once served me were now the vanguard officers of these camps, sitting tall in armor on horseback, waiting for me to rejoin them. My purple gold armor echoed theirs, stained with the dried blood of enemy soldiers. Proof of my deeds. I swung myself onto my horse, full of spirit and pride. Wei Jinfeng was utterly shocked by the scene, saying blankly, "I really can't keep you." I urged my horse forward, then suddenly saw a young officer in white robes and silver armor riding ahead of the troops. I froze. Fourth brother whispered in my ear, "I heard he came to reinforce you." General Nya asked grandfather several times to send troops. Even first and second brother couldn't beat him in argument. He rode thousands of miles without stopping. That's how we won so quickly. My face blushed like a ripe apple. Why didn't you tell me?" Fourth brother grinned secretly. He didn't want to distract you. From afar, the youth's smiling face was like morning sun. I brought your silver chain spear." The day before the marriage decree arrived, I had been sparring with him. If I lost, I would leave behind my weapon. That day, unwilling to accept defeat, I promised to spar again the next day. Who knew that seemingly ordinary farewell would be our last meeting? Under the sunlight, he waved the spear in his hand, its sharp tip gleaming brilliantly. Clearly polished every day, well cared for. Suddenly, a warm surge stirred in my heart as I rode toward him. Above was the clear blue sky, wind rushing past my ears. My youth, my battlefield, my young hero. Shun Jiyu. Here I come.